It's been an interesting couple of weeks across the college football landscape. More conversations, more upheaval. A lot of it happened, obviously, in Stillwater. Changes coming at Oklahoma State after Chuba Hubbard's statement about Coach Gundy and some of the apparel that he elected to wear during a photograph led to a team meeting, led to a conversation. It looks like things have been ironed out for now, at least in Stillwater, but still plenty more to come out of Oklahoma State. Iowa officially parted ways with one of the top strength coaches in the land, Chris Doyle, following some claims of racial bias. Again, players upset with some past treatment, speaking up. It's a theme right now as they move on. And the NCAA and member conferences sued by college athletes over the name, image, and likeness compensation. And this is going to be a real tricky situation and conversation in the coming months, in the coming years. Urban, let's start with you right now. And we're seeing more and more players gaining voice in locker rooms and in their communities, and how that is directly impacting not only college football programs, but obviously the leaders of those programs, the head coaches. This is a situation that these coaches, for the most part, have never really been put in before.
No, it's completely different times than it was when I started coaching. You know, there was an authoritarian figure as a coach, a lot like your parents, and you did what they told you to do without any hesitation or any questions asked. And that's slowly changed. And the game will be different. I talked to several people, a very prominent media person. He said this will be the most historic changes in the history of college football. Now you're talking about from the spread office or wishbone to, whatever, but it's gonna be completely different. I saw this coming. I know a lot of us saw this coming. When you started seeing the salaries inflate on coaches, the big television contracts, and you start thinking, wait a minute, coaches are getting paid this kind of money, yet the athletes they're the ones putting on the helmets and going to work. So you knew something was coming. And I'm not saying it's wrong. I'm not saying it's right. I'm very concerned. I'm worried about what the name and likeness will do to the game, will do to the locker room. I think it is time that things do happen. And I'm anxious to see, like all of us.
Reggie, I know the name and likeness is something that you've associated your name with as far as speaking out about it. And you know that this is going to be a hot topic going forward as well.
It is. It's going to be a hot topic. And this is going to be a beast, to deal with, because there's going to be so many different things that are kind of come from, kids now being able to, profit off their name, image, and likeness. But with that said, we're overdue for this. This is long overdue, and I'm happy to see that it's finally happening now for these young kids, because they deserve it. They deserve to be able to, make money off their name, image, and likeness. While the universities are also making money off their name, image, and likeness.
Yeah, there's just so many different layers to this, and to Reggie's point, I do think it's time. How this looks, I don't think any of us know. There's definitely concern. And when you just think about, you think about the power hierarchy that it's been, the NCAA to the universities to the coaches and the players really are at the bottom. And now you're starting to see that shift of changing, and the players having a voice, and now having that ability to start being compensated for their name, image, and likeness. And I also just look at, you look at Olympians, right? And you look at, people who, these kids who play an Olympic sport in college. I mean, they can't make $1 off of, or they can't be sponsored or marketed when they have to go and pay for funding for their Olympic training and all those things. I mean, this thing is so deeply layered, and it's not just college football, obviously. So, I think there's a lot of people are going to be coming out of the woodworks when this happens, and that's my concern of trying to protect these young kids. But I do think it's time, and it's change, and hopefully it'll change for the better.
Rob, I got two things, and that is whenever you talk about college football, the first conversation is about recruiting, and then you go through some layers, and then you finish with recruiting. And that's the USC under Pete Carroll won a lot of games because of the two guys on the screen. I've been very fortunate to win a lot of games because of incredible players in recruiting, and you work so hard at it. So how will this impact recruiting? How do you regulate? When the college coach, does he go into Reggie Bush's home and he meets his mother and his father, hopefully, maybe meets his high school coach, hopefully, maybe it's a 7-on-7 coach, who knows nowadays, And then all of a sudden you sit down and who's this guy sitting here? Well, that's my agent. And he's going to, we got to talk about shoe contracts here because this team just offered me so much for a shoe contract, et cetera, et cetera. And, so number one is Roman numeral number one. How does it impact recruiting? Number two, this is college football. It's not professional football. How will it impact the locker room? I have Reggie Bush, my tailback, making $300,000 a year, but the right tackle is making $6 million. And I can see the parents, and it's already starting a little bit just from my conversation with some of my colleagues. That conversation's out there. How do you equate the locker room? And if you say, well, the Jacksonville Jaguars aren't equated, well, that's professional football. So like I said, and like this prominent media person I talked to, he said it's going to be completely different. We weren't negative, just going to be different.
Coach, I want to go back to the issues that arose in Stillwater this week, and obviously that took place in Iowa City and even Tallahassee going back a couple of weeks. What would your advice be to any coach, particularly maybe the young coaches out there, on how they should go about the new scenery, the new landscape that's out there in these college football locker rooms?
Well, I shared earlier, the number one gift of the great leaders I've been around are the ability to listen, especially when you don't know what you're talking about. And I in 2017, my eyes were wide open, larger than they've ever been. Also in 2005, when I was hired at Florida, Charlie Strong was telling me there's certain places he couldn't go because after dark, he didn't want to be there. And I was blind to that. I had no idea what he was talking about because I was fortunate that was just not part of our life. So I don't want to say coaches are scared, but I say they're very cautious. I think, especially when you get to disciplinary situations, you have some, that's a fact of reality. You're coaching 17 and 20-year-olds. How do you discipline? How do you hold people accountable for their behaviors? And then all of a sudden the open transfer policy, I'll just leave. So there's a lot of conversation about it right now. I'm thinking there's going to be a tremendous amount of good come out of this. I think people are forced to listen right now like I was in 2017.
Well, we've already seen a lot of positive across communities, across campuses already.
For the best access, perspective, and personalities in all of sports, follow us at Fox Sports on Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, and YouTube.
Hey, thanks for watching. If you enjoy that clip, make sure you click subscribe somewhere down here. From game highlights to exclusive interviews and rankings, we've got everything you need as a college football fan right here. College Football on Fox.